Hello, mathematicians. Today we're going to go over a 6th grade NJSLA practice question. To get us started, here we have select each expression that is equivalent to 4 times in parentheses n plus 5. Select all that apply. So we have A, 4n plus 5, B, 4n plus 20, C, 3 times in parentheses n plus 5, and then plus in parentheses n plus 5. D, 3n plus n plus 5. E, 2n plus 2 times in parentheses n plus 5. And finally F, 2 times in parentheses n plus 5, close parentheses, plus 2 times in parentheses n plus 5. So we're going to select all that are equivalent to the expression that's given to us. But before we do so, we're going to use the distributive property to simplify the expression they gave us. So we have 4 times in parentheses n plus 5. And before we distribute, remember that if we see a variable by itself, like we see the n, it has a coefficient of 1. So we're just going to write that there to make it easier for us to distribute. So let's start off by distributing the 4. 4 times 1n is equal to 4n, and then plus 4 times 5 is equal to 20. So we're given 4n plus 20, and we're going to see everything that's equal to that. So we're going to go ahead and simplify all our choices that can also be simplified. A cannot be simplified, but it's also not equivalent to this expression because we were given 4n plus 5, and we're looking for expressions that are equivalent to 4n plus 20. B is 4n plus 20, so we know that's one of our answers. And now we're going to have to go ahead and simplify C through F. So let's start off with C. Here we have 3 times in parentheses n plus 5, and then plus n plus 5. So we're going to do the distributive property here first. And remember that if we have a variable by itself, it actually has a coefficient of 1. So we're going to rewrite that so that it's easier to work with. And now let's distribute the 3. 3 times 1n is 3n. 3 times 5 is 15. And then we're going to bring down plus. And notice here that in parentheses we have 1n plus 5, but because that can't be simplified further within the parentheses, we could just drop the parentheses and bring that down. So now we have 3n plus 15 plus 1n plus 5. And here what we have to do is combine like terms to simplify this further. So we have 3n and 1n that have the same variable. Even though the coefficient is different, if they both have the same variable, we could go ahead and combine that. So 3n plus 1n is 4n. And then we have 15 and 5, which we could also combine. 15 plus 5 is 20. So we end up with 4n plus 20, meaning that C is also equivalent to the given expression. Now let's go ahead and work with D. Here, we need to combine like terms. So before we start, we're going to add the 1 in front of the n so we could visually see that coefficient to help us combine like terms. So here we have 3n and 1n. If we add them together, we get 4n. And then we're left with plus 5, so we're going to go ahead and bring that down. Now 4n plus 5 is not equivalent to 4n plus 20, so D is not a possible answer. Now let's work with E. So here we have to combine like terms and do the distributive property. So we're going to go ahead and do the distributive property first, but we're going to bring down the 2n before we do that. And we also added a 1 in front of the n so we could see that coefficient of 1. Now let's go ahead and distribute. 2 times 1n is 2n, and then 2 times 5 is 10. Now let's go ahead and combine like terms. 2n plus 2n is 4n, and then we just have the plus 10 left over, so we could bring that down. And 4n plus 10 is not equal to 4n plus 20, so E is not a solution. Now let's simplify F. Here we have 2 times, in parentheses, n plus 5, close parentheses, plus 2 times, in parentheses, n plus 5. First, we're going to write a 1 in front of our variable since there was no coefficient there, meaning that the coefficient is 1, and that's going to help us when we distribute. So let's start off by distributing the 2. 2 times 1n is equal to 2n. 2 times 5 is equal to 10. And then 2 times 1n is equal to 2n. And 2 times 5 is equal to 10. Now let's combine like terms. Here we have 2n and 2n. 2n plus 2n is equal to 4n. And then we have 10 and 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. And it ends up simplifying to 4n plus 20, meaning that F is also a solution.